Hello, everybody. Welcome to my new Sunday market breakdown. As usually, we start on the DXY, the US dollar currency index. So, what can we see on the daily? Last week, I was predicting that we could go to this supply and demand zone here, this support, resistance, potential support again here, which we just not tap. Why is that? There is a kind of reason behind that for potentially making here that supply and demand zone and going potentially further for that shoulder one, head shoulder two, bullish M, which we didn't complete. We are just stuck in a range. We are stuck between these highs here and these lows. So why is that the price is having here some difficulties? Because if I look on the weekly, you can see on the weekly we have still that impulsive move going to the upside for potentially making that shoulder one, head shoulder two. So this is pushing the price up. And on the other side, we have still that bearish trend because this is an indicational bullish trend. We can just go back to the downside. So we are having here also this bearish W, which is um, bearish. So actually we can go also to the downside. So the price is having some struggles between what are we doing here, sells or buys. So what we can see we did right now is we have here a resistance zone, a support zone, resistance, and now we have again support. So once we closed above that zone, aligning with this lower low region here. So this lower low, and you drew the line here, you can see we closed above it as support. So for me, it's obvious now that the price can be support and then potentially push till this next selling zone where the liquidity is at for the sellers, for the banks and institutes, because now they don't want to know and they also are above this zone. So they like now to push to the next liquidity zone because they grab some liquidity from this zone here. And then we can go to the upside till these highs. And from that moment, there is a high potential that we can potentially make here a push to the upside, taking some liquidity, then going to make that shoulder one here, head, shoulder two with resistance here. So, and also if I see it like this, a small bullish M here on that line chart. As you can see here, we have here some small structure here. It's not the obvious one, but we have one. So this can potentially happen. So on the daily, you can see if we can break out of that range. It doesn't know what to do because we are still having that bearish weekly trend with that buyers pushing the price all the time up, but they can't go to the upside for now. But I expect a break or maybe some one more tap of this liquidity zone and then a push back to the upside to this weekly high selling zone. This is what can potentially happen. And on the 4 hour, you can see it much clearer. Every time we touch this daily horizontal line or 4 hour horizontal line, as you can see from that bottom range, you can see buyers here, false break, took liquidity for a nice push to the upside. Here we had here highs, sellers. Here false break, took liquidity for more downside momentum. We took the new action from this low. You can see that new liquidity was taken, potentially again up. And then we have having here back again new liquidity at these highs and again a false break. And then we went back to the downside till this lows. So the price is having some difficulties right now, and we will see what will happen, what can potentially happen. So yeah. So then Euro AUD on the daily chart, this is the first pair I'm looking at. So on the daily, what can you see? We are still in a bullish uptrend on the daily. We have that first leg, second leg, third leg, fourth leg. So we can clearly see impulses, corrections, impulses, big correction. After that big impulse, we expect a bigger correction because the sprinter want to take his relief, his breath. So this is now forming. What we can also see is on the weekly now. So we have that daily potential bullish M. Or if I go and look closer, you can see every time we made a new action of this potential substructure here, we had new action here. The price went till the upside, till these highs. Sellers are kicking in, had a new action of this low wick here. We tap the weekly buying zone, and now we can potentially go to the upside, potentially because we tapped that weekly liquidity zone where the weekly buyers potentially can be sitting. And also we have here also that black horizontal line at this low here. You can see it's closing above it, so it can potentially act as support here. As you can see, it's a great support region that can push the price to the upside, taking some new liquidity here at these highs, and then potentially going back to the downside to finish that with the potential flip completion from this high to this low. You can see it minus 27 aligning on this IC, so this can potentially happen on the daily chart right now. So then I go to the weekly. What can you see on the weekly? We have still that major bullish uptrend, bullish M. Yet here your low, high, low, higher high. So you have here that bigger bullish M on the weekly. You can see this as impulse, correction, impulse, correction. And as you can see, we tapped also from that, like here, the shoulder one region here aligning with this resistance here, support, support. We took here some liquidity from that shoulder one zone. You can see this as a shoulder one, head, shoulder two here, push to the upside. And yeah, we can go more to the upside from there. So what are the price telling me at the moment? So what I can see right now is the trend is with us. We have 3 out of 4, so this is already one candle close. It's just a doji, but it's rejecting from this buying zone here because we broke above that, and you can see we acted as clearly support from this buying zone, as you can see. Here were also some resistance, resistance, and when we broke above it as support. So this is why I drew this zone here on the daily chart. Also, you could see that there are some buy orders sitting and it's pushing the price up. So potentially what I can expect is if this is a doji, we can potentially make a new action from that low and we can grab some liquidity a little bit lower or from that IC here. This is potentially possible. Then you have your shoulder one, head, shoulder two here. This is also possible, but I expect not that deeper pullback of that because it's really big. It's lower than the daily lows from that bullish M, so we can always expect it. But yeah, it took also some liquidity from here. So we have the FIB with us from this low till this high. You have the FIB levels with you, and then the supply and demand on here is working for you, for me right now. So we have a 3 out of 4. So for me, it's a valid trade to take. So the weekly is clear. Daily was impulse correction. We expect a potential support region here, pull back from this selling zone, new action possibly, and then going back to the downside potentially. So this is what I can see. So on the 4 hour, what can we see on the 4 hour? You can see the 4 hour is switched. So we had here our low, high, we made a new low, and then we were making newer lower lows, lower highs. This bigger bearish W from the daily, you can see it also clear. This bearish W here potentially forming. You have that clear waveform. This A, B, C correction potentially going to the upside. Who knows? So, and on the 4 hour, yeah, it's now going impulsively to the upside. So if we can hold with this trend line holding it to the downside, then we can go back to this zone. So we will see what will happen there. So I expect potentially an impulse till this daily IC because the price likes to come back till these ICs. It's working like a magnet. So then Eurgbp on the daily chart, what can you see? You can see we have still a downtrend. We have a bearish W, impulse, correction, impulse, potential correction. So we are also trading below this key buying zone here. These are clear buyers. You can see it. It is a really nice zone holding this for almost a week. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, yeah, 6 days here. Then we went to the upside. Here we had also a nice buying zone, and here it also acted as resistance. So for me, it's clear supply and demand zone here. Potentially acting as resistance here if we tap that. So what we don't want to see is now a really big push to the upside from the daily. because then the buyers can kick in and the sellers are not anymore in power. So you want to see a corrective nature, because then if we have a really impulsive candle close, then we can make that potential shoulder one, head shoulder two, because it's taking here some liquidity from that weekly lows beginning of correction. This is always possible. But the thing I like on that weekly is that we have this bearish W here, first leg, second leg, third leg. We close above this weekly low wicks here. We close below that, so we can make that bearish W, and we can potentially act as resistance here because this candle closes below that, and we can potentially act as resistance for more downside momentum. The only thing we need to be careful for is this beginning of correction, is lows here, where every time we had some buy orders sitting. So we need to be careful for that, that the new liquidity is taken, that the price can now push and make this false break, and then potentially close like this, acting as support here, and then we can go back to the upside. So this is a potential thing you need to see. That's why on the daily Eurgbp that we need to have yeah, corrective nature really. So this is the thing you want to see. If you look on the monthly, you can also see that yeah, we are at these monthly lows, this liquidity zone. You can see it also. These two horizontal lines are at buyers resistance, resistance, support, support, potential support, with an impulse and an ABC correction waveform. So yeah, you need to be careful for that setup. I just want to see a nice correction. Impulse, nice correction. That's the thing I want to see. So be careful for that. And on the 4 hour, you can see the 4 hour is still bearish, which is nice. This is nice to see because this is your last 4 hour high. So this one, 4 hour high, this is your last 4 hour low. So actually the trend is still bearish. So it's good to see that. So we can now come correctively to that zone and then for a potential short. So this is where I'm looking at. Then GPCHF on the daily chart. What can you see on Gbpchf? You have here your head, potential head and shoulders that could form your shoulder one here, head, shoulder two. We didn't come back till that zone. We went till that support zone that could become resistance here, which is aligning here with this support, support, support here, support. So actually it's clear support zone, which had hold as resistance. So now it's a clear supply and demand zone for us. So you can see this zone is really nice holding when we are above it and now we are below it. So what can we further see? We have here a potential bearish W. You have here your first leg, second leg, third leg, fourth leg, coming back to that zone and potentially making a new action and touching this I see also with it from the shoulder one. So then we can potentially push back up, back to the downside. So if I look now to the weekly, what can you see or what is the weekly telling us? We are still in a bearish driver because this is our high, low, high, new lower low. So this is our major bearish W here. We touched the weekly lows. So that's why we had here some impulsive move from that, because it was the first time we touched this weekly lows beginning of correction. This is still our whole correction. So you need to be careful for that, that we are in a massive descending channel here forming. So we can potentially break out of it. But what I can also see is, if I look on a shorter time frame, you can see this is your bearish W here. We are touching this as a third touch. So this is our first touch, second touch, third touch, and then we received a weekly bearish candle close. Really good close of that, because yet here also that smaller bearish W, that waveform that happened. And this was clear support. When we are below it, we act as resistance, which we did. So this is our clear supply and demand zone. So the trend is for us. Candle close, this red one, really bearish one, is for us. The fib from this high till this low is for us. And the supply and demand zone acting as support here, resistance here, again, almost support. So it's for us. So a 4 out of 4. So it's a really nice trade. The daily, it's a potential small pattern. And on the 4 hour, you can see the 4 hour is now bearish. You have your high, lower low. You have this bearish W as the same as the daily actually. So it's a really nice zone to take a short on, potentially. So till that daily minus 27. So these are the trades I'm looking at. The only trade I'm still potentially looking at is GBP CAT. This is a trade with a 2 out of 4 on the weekly. So you have here your potential bullish M, first leg, second leg, third leg, fourth leg. You have here a nice buying zone here, buyers, resistance, support, potential support, with aligning the substructure bullish M with the potential new action of this lows wick that can hold the price potentially up to take some new liquidity. And on the weekly, you can see the only thing that here is negative is this candle close, which is rejecting from this weekly selling zone. So the sellers can kick in, and this can be your diesel. So, and then you can go back to these weekly lows potentially. But the trend is still bullish for me because this was our low. Actually, yes. This was our low, sorry. This was our low, this was our high. We made the first time break, but the trend is still bullish for me because it's was just the first time break. So it's still bullish. So we can go back to this beginning of correction of this weekly highs. Even if we touch this weekly selling zone, it's potentially happening because the trend is not confirmed bearish, still in an uptrend. So the trend is for us, candle close this one, closed impulsively to the downside. This is against us. Fib levels, you can say this fib from this low to this high can work for you. Um, so and then the supply momentum is against you. So actually it's a 2 out of 4 and potentially a 1 out of 4 because the fib from this low till this high here is, yeah, you can see it's a potential false break. What I do, what I see, actually it's a false break of that because you just closed here on this lows. So for me, the flip is valid, but for some people it will not, and then it would be a 1 out of 4 and not valid. So for me, it's still a clear bullish M. The only thing is that after that impulse we had on the daily, we had here that correction with the trend. So that's a possible thing we can expect. It's also the third touch, first touch, second touch, third touch. We can go to the downside, making that shoulder one, head shoulder two, potentially. So this is a trade I'm also looking at. I will see what the price will do here or making new actions. So yeah, this is my SMB. I hope you liked it and see you next week. Bye.